Hey Kelly, how are you?
I'm great, Lance. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for coming on the call with me. To everybody who's tuning in, I am on with Kelly McGlynn. She's a friend of mine and a therapist. And I wanted to have a quick conversation with her because with everything that we're experiencing right now with the COVID-19 pandemic, there's a lot of people in situations that they've never felt themselves in before, and a lot of people who could use the services of somebody who's a therapist. So I wanted to just chat about a couple things related to that with Kelly. So without further ado, Kelly, the one question, the first thing I want to start off with is what are the challenges that people are experiencing right now?
Okay, so the biggest thing I'm seeing is a feeling of loss. And that can come in the form of sadness or fear. So there's a loss of control that I'm seeing that is causing a lot of fear. And one way that I'm seeing that's helpful to combat that is to find ways that you can find control. So in your schedule, in your sleep, exercise, finding those things that you can control. Other things are your schedule, planning family meetings, um, filtering what news you're taking in also, and not watching the news before you go to bed. Um, Other things that you could do are to contribute to others. So, making phone calls, reaching out to people that you haven't talked to in a while or people that you talked to yesterday and just checking on them and saying, hey, how are you? How are you doing? How are you coping with this? What's new? How are your animals if you have any? Are you planting flowers, right? Like just checking in with people, saying hello and letting them know that you're thinking about them. The other thing is that you have control over is how you respond to your thoughts. So our thoughts are constantly running, I'm sure right now especially. So the way that we respond to our thoughts is another thing that we can control. And one big thing there is meditation. So there's lots of apps out there that you could use on YouTube or in app stores. One that I recommend is Headspace, and they do have a free option on there. Um, and that's a way to try to take hold of our thoughts because they can definitely get going with what's going on right now.
Yeah, totally agree with that. The meditation thing is something I've been doing for probably about, I'd say 2 years, and Headspace is a great app. I always enjoyed Calm. I thought
Mhm.
both were great apps. I just preferred the voice of the person on the Calm app better. That was the only reason I chose one over the other. Um, so yeah, you also mentioned the keeping a schedule. That's a huge one for me. I still get up at the same time every day. It helps me with my circadian rhythms too, because if I were to sleep in every day, I would be way off target with getting to bed at a normal time. Yeah, totally
Absolutely.
agree with that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Okay. So, are there any other ways that people can cope? I mean, we just hit on a bunch of them. Is there any other things that you might want to add on to that?
Um, I mean, I talked about exercise and sleep. You can also focus on the positives. So
Uh-huh.
reframing things like instead of thinking that you're stuck in the house, you're safe in the house, reframing that. Um, and then, all of the restrictions that you're given, you can reframe them as, okay, well, now I have less choices. I know that I can do this, right? So thinking about what you can do versus what you can't do. You can spend more time with a loved one in the house. You can cook dinner maybe, and you couldn't before. You may be given the opportunity to work in the garden more. So reframing that I can't with things that you can do can
Yeah.
cause you to feel like you have more control in the situation.
That's a huge one now, and I I don't know where I picked this up, and you hit on it. Controlling your thoughts, and one of the things that I've learned just by myself in reading personal development books and things like that is there's always this initial reaction or feeling or thought that occurs, and that I don't I'm curious to hear what your thoughts on this. Like, you can't control that, but the follow up to that is how you respond to it, and
Right.
that is something that is within your control. How would you say that's accurate?
Oh, absolutely. But it takes a lot of training. So that's where the meditation comes in. So if you didn't meditate before, you had no idea what mindfulness was, you didn't even think that you had thoughts, maybe, or that they were affecting your behaviors or anything like that. it'll take a little more practice. So you have to just be kind with yourself when you're thinking about that thoughts then can affect your reactions. Absolutely. So just cutting yourself some slack and saying, I'm going to get through this.
Yeah.
Yeah. It takes a lot of practice.
Now, I know you mentioned mindfulness meditation. There are a lot of different types of meditation. Is there any one that you would I guess, recommend, as opposed to, you think of mindfulness meditation, there's transcendental meditation, there's other ones as well. Is mindfulness the one that you would say has the most impact, or would be the most beneficial?
Mindfulness is all about focusing on one thing in the moment without judgment. So if we're trying to control our thoughts, I would say mindfulness is something that is really good to start with. But there are so many different types, like you said. So you can research for yourself and see what works best for you. But mindfulness meditation, I would think, is a good start, because it's just about focusing on one thing in the moment without judgment, whatever that is too. Like if you're having a thought that you're really scared, then you're mindful that you're having that thought.
Yeah. That's before I got into meditation, and people would say, oh, it's changed my life, and I never understood why it was. And then after doing it for over a year, I'd say consistently, it clicked. And it was like, I caught myself in a thought that I didn't want to have. And I was like, oh, I've trained my mind to catch myself in times like this.
Yeah.
That's how it manifested in reality for me.
Exactly. But it took practice, right? Yeah.
And for me, I don't know how much you suggest, but I've been doing it. It's 10 minutes. It's the first thing I do. I get up, I make my bed, and the next thing I do is sit down on my meditation bench and I meditate. 10 minutes, and that's it.
Yeah. As much as you can do it is better, is the best, because it's just like learning to play soccer or cycling, or the more that you practice, the better you get at it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's something I was curious about, because there's no way of saying except the fact that we are in uncharted waters right now. We're in a place that we've never experienced as a society. Is it possible that somebody who's never experienced severe depression or severe levels of sadness, that they are experiencing and may not know it? They just know something's different, but they don't know what it is. Is it possible that people are going through something like that?
Absolutely. Yeah. And that might be really scary for people. So what could happen is they might feel that sadness, and then that might turn into fear, even more fear and anxiety too. So it might manifest as anxiety, and they might start to have worries that they've never had before, and then go back and forth between depression and anxiety. Some symptoms to look for, some signs might be like loss of appetite, loss in pleasurable things that you used to like to do. Like if you used to like to, I don't know, I'm sure there's people that like to clean the house, right?
Yeah, there are.
So, yeah, but maybe gardening, or if you used to ride your bike every day and all of a sudden you find that you're not doing that anymore, and maybe you're having like fearful thoughts that if I ride my bike, then this or that, or there's lots of things that can happen during this time that people have never experienced before. Absolutely.
Okay, so those are a couple of the signs. Yeah, it's just it's crazy what we're going through, and I just wanted people to be aware of, like, if something feels different and it's a place you've never experienced before mentally, you're not the only one that's going through it.
Absolutely, right? Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
There are some good articles that are floating around right now about loss and grief that has to do with what's going on right now, the loss of the life that you had before, that you can't do those things that you used to be able to do. And also the isolation too. So all of this physical distancing is causing people to feel more isolated. And we are social beings as humans, and we thrive on that and that connection. So it's very difficult for people to be isolated like this and not have that human connection.
I like how you called it physical distancing and not social distancing.
Yeah, because we can still be social, right? We can still do Zoom, but physically we can't be close to each other. Yeah. But that physicalness, it creates, it's an energy, right? Like it's an exchange, and that is very difficult for our bodies to not get that every day.
Yeah. Well, this has been great. I really appreciate you coming on. Is there anything else that you would want to say or want people to hear from a therapist that we didn't already cover so far?
One thing I would just say is to not be afraid to reach out to a therapist, myself or any other therapist. It can be a little scary, right, to get the whole ball rolling. Look at that.
Yep.
To get the ball rolling, right? With therapy, there's a lot of unknown, and it can be a little bit scary. So to take that leap sometimes I think is hard for people, but there's no harm and there's no judgment. Find a compassionate therapist to talk to, because these are uncharted territories for everyone. And there's a lot of things that people are going through that you don't have to do on your own. Someone can help you. Yeah.
Because not everybody's used to reaching out for help, especially that type of help. It might be like a big pill to swallow with regards to maybe feeling embarrassed about it, or not trying to be a self-starter or whatnot, and all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, I'm spinning my wheels now. And
Exactly. And that can start to feel like, well, or maybe you go on Facebook and you see, oh, everybody else is like, they're cooking, or wow, they made sourdough bread. Like, oh my gosh, like everybody else is being so productive. Why can't I get myself out of bed? But you're not the only one. We all know they don't post the bad stuff usually about staying in bed and having trouble getting motivated, which might be an experience that someone has never had before. But because they can't be around other people and they can't do the things that they used to be able to do, it becomes harder to do life. Social
media. Oh, go ahead.
I mean, lots of people have lost their jobs too. So they've lost their purpose, and maybe they know they're going to have one afterwards, and maybe they don't. But either way, it makes it really hard for people to get through the day.
Yeah, maybe we're kind of getting to the end of our time. I think maybe we can do another call, and you touched on a subject that I think could be a really deep topic, is finding meaning.
Yeah.
We could probably have another 10-15 minute call just on that subject alone.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So as far as if somebody wanted to reach out or find more information or get in contact with you to take it to the next level, what's the best way for them to get in touch with you?
So the best way to reach me and get more information is through my website, which is just kellymcglynn.com.
All right, perfect.
Very simple.
All right, and I'll post a link to that so people can find it nice and easy.
Great.
All right, well, thanks for coming on. This is very, very helpful. Again, everybody, thanks for watching. If you need any help, feel free to reach out to Kelly. She's there for you. Oh, and you can also do this personal distancing wise. You can.
Right.
Yes.
Right, yeah.
Right.
So I'm all set up for telehealth. I do phone sessions and video sessions, whatever you prefer. Absolutely.
All right. Perfect. Awesome. Okay. Again, thanks for coming on, and look forward to talking to you again real soon.
All right. Thanks very much, Lance. Have a great day.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.